From Vondermaiden Hall at the University of Connecticut, Fox Connecticut, the Hartford Courant, and UConn bring you the U.S. Senate Democratic Debate.
Hi, I'm Allison Morris from Fox Connecticut. Welcome to Vondermaiden Hall at the University of Connecticut and the Democratic Senate Debate. We have 5 candidates here tonight: Susan Bysiewicz, Chris Murphy, Matthew Oakes, William Tong, and Lee Whitnum. We are committed to an open and civil exchange of viewpoints. These candidates signed an agreement that includes ground rules for this debate. They include acting in a professional manner, treating each other with respect, and being courteous to the other candidates. The format is as follows. We're going to be covering 5 topics: education, healthcare, foreign affairs, defense, and the economy. Once asked a question, the candidates will each have 1 minute to answer that direct question. There will be no rebuttals. Joining me are 2 panelists, Fox Connecticut reporter and Real Story host Lori Perez, and Hartford Courant Capitol Bureau Chief Chris Keating. Between the 2 panelists, each candidate will be asked 1 follow-up question. Those questions have not been predetermined, and the panelists will be able to decide when they'd like to ask their follow-up. But again, each candidate will get only 1 follow-up question. The candidates have drawn cards to determine the order in which they will answer. That order will change with each of the 5 topics, so that each candidate will have the opportunity to answer a question first. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain quiet. That means no cheers, applause, or outbursts of any kind. Tonight's first topic is one of the most hotly debated issues at hand right now, particularly here in Connecticut: education. Chris Keating will ask the first question. Chris.
Mr. Murphy, hello. Student loan debt nationwide is at $1 trillion now. It has surpassed credit card debt and auto loan debt. And the federal interest rates could double in July on top of that. What should Congress do about it?
Well, first let me thank CT1 and the Courant UConn for sponsoring this debate, for giving me a great education, and maybe most importantly for introducing me to my wife, Kathy Holohan, who's here today. Listen, this is an appropriate place to be answering that question because today we are on the verge of a law expiring at the federal level that will increase the interest rate on student loans from 3.4% to 6.8%. That could be $5,000 or more out of the pocket of an average student or family here at UConn. Now, I'm not just talking about changing this law, I'm doing something about it. Joe Courtney and I are working together to pass legislation that would keep that interest rate low at 3.4%, to put money back in the pockets of students. You know, this issue is personal to a lot of us on stage. My mother would have never gotten to go to college without student loans. I would have never gotten to go to UConn without student loans. And with 2 little boys at home, my wife and I are now struggling to save for college like everyone else. We can do something about it. We can start with the interest rate.
Mr. Tong?
Yes, thank you for that question. Thank you, Fox and the Courant and UConn. I also want to thank my parents who are here today, Addie and Nancy Tong. They made incredible sacrifices for me and my sisters so that I could stand here today. And the biggest thing they focused on was our education, my education growing up here in this state. And because they made those sacrifices, I have the opportunity to stand here today and tell you why I hope to be your next U.S. Senator. What we need to do is to create opportunity and make sure the opportunity that my family has had is open to everybody. And that starts with controlling the rise of the cost of higher education here in this state and across the country. We have an arms race going on. I know President Herbst is here and she's doing her best to provide a world-class education here at UConn. We've got an arms race across the country for ever bigger stadiums, ever better dorms, ever more accomplished faculty. And that comes at a heavy price to all of our students. We need to tie federal grants to the ability and the efforts of universities to control the rise in tuition costs. Also, one thing I'm proud of doing at the state level in the state legislature is expanding access to all children. We passed the Connecticut Dream Act here in Connecticut to give the children of undocumented workers an opportunity to go to college, to give them a chance to pay in-state tuition. We've got to do that across the country and at the federal level. Thank you.
Mr. Oakes, what should Congress do about it?
I'd also like to thank you all for hosting me and all you students for attending. It makes me really, really energetic today. I think this is one question that we're all not going to differ too much on. We do have to control the interest rates. I've said it before. We have to find a way to cut costs or, increase the budget. I'm one of the guys that's only out there saying, well, we got to, make some cuts to certain budgets, whether that be foreign aid or, defense. We got to get the money somewhere and shift it over to education. We got to increase Pell Grants. We got to make loans easier for students to get. And absolutely, Congress needs to look into, or keep the interest rates low. As my colleague said, we have to control the costs so that everyone gets a fair shake with their education and is able to afford it. And that's just, I don't think we're going to agree too much on that issue itself.
Ms. Whitnum, will student loan debt be the next bubble threatening the economy?
That's what they're saying. I want to thank you all for having me here, and especially to Carolyn for all her hard work for setting this up. They're saying that student loan will be the next bubble. I'd like to talk about personal responsibility. I actually have friends who are still paying off student loan. I was very fortunate. I did not have to take out any student loans until I attended Harvard for my master's degree. And then I took out a loan. It was for $12,000, and I thought it was like this enormous amount of money, and it's nothing now. But when I was an undergraduate, I made the choice of staying home for a little while and commuting, and also I had 3 jobs at the time. There's ways to do it expensive, and there's ways to do it cheaply. You could choose the alternative of a community college and live at home before you take the transfer to a 4-year school. Only you know your personal situation. We all need access to student loans, and we need low interest rate student loans. But you also need to look at your own situation and make wise choices.
Ms. Bysiewicz?
Well, thank you so much. This is something that I think about a lot because I have 2 daughters in college. My daughter Elena is 18, my daughter Ava is 20. They're both in college. My son Tristan is in high school looking at colleges. And here's what I think we should do to make college more affordable. We need to be talking about expanding Pell Grants and making sure that Stafford loans and low interest federal government loans are available. And as we speak, Republicans in the United States Senate and Congress are trying to cut those loans and make those grants less accessible. I also think that we should be giving federal resources to colleges and universities based on whether or not they keep tuition rates down. That's also very important. And we should be looking for ways to shorten a college education experience if that's what the student wants.